You know what sound that is, folks. You betcha it's another noon whistle. I'm Chris Trottier, and I'm going solo today because Mr. John Anzalone is sunning himself on the beaches of St. Thomas. But I'm not alone. I'm with Coach Luke Reigel from UW Parkside. Welcome to the show, Luke.
Thanks for having me, my friend.
All right. Well, we go back friend to years, friend to tears. How many years it's been? 30 some?
At least 35 or maybe pushing 40 even.
Oh, boy.
If you go back to the baseball days.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm sure all the Elks are excited to tune in to today's noon whistle to hear from two Wilmot grads. But what the heck? They've been listening to me for over a year and a half. But we can celebrate Nick Brown, who I hear is coming back for a fifth year.
Yes, we are very fortunate. He's going to graduate with his undergrad in graphic design, but he's decided to come back and play his fifth year that, all the kids his age got from the COVID season. So he's going to come back and get his master's degree in our sport management program. And we're fortunate to have him obviously on the court for one more year.
Yeah. Pretty good player. Pretty good player.
He had a heck of a year. That's for sure.
Yeah, so let's talk about your year. Give us an overview. I mean, obviously it's not up to your standard, but you lost some key players to the transfer portal, which we'll get in later in the show. But I thought it was one of your better coaching seasons. You had great kids. Talk a little bit about kind of a summary of the year. What your thoughts were.
Well, I think when you have some time to reflect on it, it was a really quality year as far as growth. We played, all of our guards were young except one. And so, we had two freshmen and a sophomore get a ton of experience, and they got better throughout the year. Our older players got better. We talked about Nick Brown, our guard Josiah Palmer, and even a couple other players that, were starters or came off the bench, guys like Ethan Ivan, like they all got better. And unfortunately, it didn't translate into wins and losses as much as we would have liked. But the teams that beat us, and we lost a ton of close games this year, like they're still playing. I mean, Ferris State, who beat us in the conference tournament by 2, they're in the Elite 8 today. So we feel we're very close. We just need to add a couple quality pieces to this group. But there were a lot of things to like about the season. I feel like as we just started our off-season workouts yesterday. Our players are very excited to get going because a lot of players finished playing well. And so we're just going to put the next 5 months into focusing on next year. But I like what we did this year. Again, you would like to have a few more wins and still be playing. But overall, great group of young men. We just had 4 players named to the all-academic area team. It was a fun team to coach and a fun group to have returning. Now we just got to, take it to another level so that we're playing meaningful games in March next year.
Yeah. So great season. I mean, you're in a tough conference, grinding it out. So now as you start to get ready for next year, I rumor has it you're already visiting with possible recruits. Talk a little bit about what you're going to do to get ready. What are some areas that you want to really build on for the program moving forward? Obviously, you added some experience there, but what are some needs for you? And then we'll kind of go into how you're going to fill those.
Well, I think, as we were talking before we went on, it's really difficult to plan for 2 or 3 years down the road anymore in college basketball. And it's unfortunate. It used to be you'd bring in young players and you'd project them to where they're going to be as a junior and a senior and build around that group. And nowadays, it's just much more fluid. So you can't project. You can project hopefully 2 years, down the road, but it's hard to project 3 or 4 years with everything that happens in the transfer portal. So we're very fortunate. Like I said, we have 9 players returning, a very good core. What we're at is most of them are perimeter players. So, we have a bunch of guards and a bunch of forwards, but we don't have any size returning in the program, at the center position, really. So that's what we're going to be doing this spring is looking to add. We're going to look to add a couple transfers, some older players that are just bigger, whether they're power forwards or centers, and then add a couple high school kids as well that hopefully can, grow in our program and be big contributors, when they get to be sophomores or juniors and down the road. So like ideally for our program, we always want to build through the high school level. We've had to just adjust and add a few more transfers the last few years, but we've always operated on a 75-25 model where we'd like to have 75% of our players come from the high school level and they're in our program for 4 or 5 years and develop. And then the other 25% are transfers, whether they're D1 transfers, D2 transfers, heck, D3 transfers, and even a touch on the JUCO side a little bit.
Yeah. So let's address kind of the recruiting process here. Let's first start. This will be 2 parts. You are on the #1 podcast in Walworth County, so there's a lot of people listening. But I think everybody has an idea on what college sports looks like and what the process is. But talk to me a little bit. You said 75% high school kids. If you were sitting here telling a kid or a parent or like what do you, not only you, but coaches, you're the longest standing tenured coach at an institution in D1, D2, D3. So you've been around, you've seen the game evolve, you've had a ton of success. What recommendations, advice would you give to families or kids about college basketball and their high school experience?
Well, I think the first 2 things you're going to look at when you're evaluating a player is 1, their work ethic. Like, how hard do they play? Because if they what we've found is, we've taken chances on a handful of kids throughout the years of guys that probably didn't play hard enough. And we're like, we'll get them to play harder. And it's hard to change that. Like, your work ethic really doesn't change. I mean, as you get older and more mature, you understand it. But really, like, if you're not playing hard as a junior or senior in high school, going to the college level, you're going to get eaten alive. And so when we watch players, it's like, okay, how hard do they compete? And then the second part of it is their character. Like, how do they interact with their teammates? How do they interact when things don't go well? Like a call goes against them. And we're not talking a kid that gets frustrated because he didn't get a call, but we're like, is he in the huddle getting a drink while his coaches, or is he going to walk down the end of the bench and get a drink while his coach is drawing up a play? Like, if he gets pulled out of the game, does he put a towel over his head? Like, things like that reveal their character. And of course, we'll talk about how athletic they have to be. And, you can't be a 6'4" post player at our level. So all those size athleticism matter. But if they don't have the work ethic and character, then we just cross them off the list. And hey, a kid can have a bad day. So, maybe it's not the first time you watch him. You're like, okay, we'll go watch him again. But if it's multiple times you see these red flags, they just get crossed off the list. And,
here's another, I'm going to take it to another level. Cause I've heard this from other like coaches in other sports, not you, but obviously parents and families get energized. Does the parents' interaction with a college coach ever play into it, or is that not like that's something you worry about?
Well, obviously, there's all different levels to it, right? Like you talk with the high school coach, you talk with the AAU coach, so you get feedback on a kid's parents and how they interact with them. It can be different at the college level. There's no question when we do tours with, players and their parents, if the wrong questions are asked by parents, it sends up a red flag,
sure.
Or if they're on the campus tour and they're always talking about how Johnny's coach didn't do this or Johnny's coach didn't do that, like you worry about that stuff.
Sure.
But at the same time, there's a separation at the college level, or at least there should be, right? Like I just don't, I don't deal with parents. I don't deal with parents in season at all, unless it's a mental health or an issue, like if they're concerned about a well-being of theirs, of course I'll sit down with them and talk to them. But if I've got a handful of emails throughout the years about Jimmy or Joey's playing time, they just go in a bin that, I laugh about after the season, or, and a lot of times the player doesn't even know their parents are emailing. So
sure.
There's definitely a separation, but, there are things that you look for as a coach, and, there's obviously great supportive parents. And then there's the next level where it's a concern of, They always feel like their child's being slighted or whatever. That worries you as a college coach when you're going through the research process.
So let's go into the next. So you said 75, 25. So 25, you're looking for transfers. Talk about how obviously we had teams this year who said, you know what, I'm not playing in the postseason because Rick Pitino and some of these teams because of the transfer portal. As long as you've been doing it, talk a little bit on the impact of the transfer portal and, is it here to stay? What do you anticipate being possible solutions to it?
Unfortunately, I think it's here to stay. I feel like between the transfer portal and the name, image, likeness, money that's going on, like they've opened Pandora's box, and I don't know how you reel it in. They're going to have to do something to add some guardrails to this. As far as like when you have kids transferring to their third school in 3 years, that's a problem because it's supposed to be about getting an education. I know at the higher level they're making some serious money, but at D3, D2, it's got to be about getting that degree and being in a position to, do well once you're done with college. So I don't know what the answers are on that, but they're going to have to come up with something, I guess is what I'd say. As far as like what we
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the biggest thing, what we look for when we're looking for transfers is, do they fit? You know what I mean? Like a high school kid can come in and he's got to mature and grow and learn from the older players. But a transfer player has to come in and do they fit in with your culture? Do they fit in with the players that are already in the program? And obviously their style of play and their strengths and weaknesses need to fit into what you do as well. But the character part of it is really important. Like we're talking with the group we have right now, we have a really good group and talented group. We don't want to bring someone in that, can spoil that culture just because they have talent. They have to have the character and the work ethic to fit in well with the group too.
Yeah, that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. I mean, it's amazing on how, I think about, Coach Gard, who we know went to Platteville with, he had X's and O's. He's as good as you're going to find. As a human being, he's as good as you're going to find. And the fact that they had an earlier exit than hope, all of a sudden now it sends up all these flags on their so-and-so's leaving. I'm going here. It's got to be pretty challenging to build something from the ground up and really sustain it.
Well, especially, the way they want to do it with high character kids and they'd prefer not to have a lot of transfers because, that's how you sustain, or you build consistency. And of course, you and I both go on Twitter and hear all these people firing off tweets. It's like, I don't think people understand just how difficult it is to win in the postseason. Like you have to be healthy. You have to get a break. You have to get good matchups. Like there's very few teams like that just are in it consistently. And yes, of course you've got, the Gonzaga's incredible, right? And then you've got the Kansases and the North Carolinas, but look at almost 90% of the other coaches at any level, and trying to get to the Sweet 16 is, really difficult. We're still trying to do it once here. Like we've been in some NCAA tournaments and we've lost to some really good teams that, we've lost the potential or teams that went on to win a national title. It's just not as easy as it is to fire out a tweet.
Yeah. So let's keep going with that and kind of talk a little bit about D2 basketball. UW Parkside is, in addition to Northern Michigan, the second D2 school in the state of Wisconsin.
Good one.
Yeah, thanks. So it's the only one. I'm just kidding. But so like, what makes that D2 experience unique, good or bad? Is the transfer portal more impactful at D2 now, or
I think the transfer portal is going to hit D2 harder just because D1 coaches know that how good a level our league is. Like the players that are the best players in our league can play Division I. There's no doubt about it. If they go to the right situations, they can. But the thing, and that's the number one thing I love about D2. You and I, we talk about, we both graduated from Platteville. We were there when Bo Ryan was winning the national championship. It seemed like every year. And those were great teams. And I love that, the D2 is the next level up. And the kids I coach, the kids that we coach against, it's really high level basketball. And that's the number one thing I've always enjoyed. The other difference with D2 and D3 is like D3, you just don't travel as much. I mean, D3 in Wisconsin, what are there, 8? I mean, there's probably 20 Division III schools in the state of Wisconsin, when you count the small private ones. So for us, we're going to Michigan, we're going to Indiana, we're going to Illinois to play conference games, to go non-conference. And so we hit the entire Midwest a little bit more. And it gives you that big time experience when you're hopping on a bus and you're going to play a conference game on Thursday, then drive to another city and play another conference game on Saturday. So there's definitely more travel that goes with it. And like I said, I really enjoy it. I don't enjoy the cities we go to in the GLIAC as much as the GLVC. The GLVC, we're going to Indianapolis and St. Louis. And
how's Lake Superior State in February?
Oh yeah, when it says next exit Canada, that's always fun when you're in. It's February, but
yeah, when you're playing games on the Gitchagumi, they're up in Lake Superior.
Exactly. So you put on your parkas and the snow boots and go up to the UP twice a winter.
Well, I've known you for, like you said, almost 40 years, and I know there's one thing that you do not love, and that's winter. So
exactly.
So as excited as you were to exit the GLVC, I'm sure the GLIAC brought some opportunities, but also some challenges as you go through it. So a couple let's kind of, we're getting to that point of the show. Let's kind of have a little fun here. And who do you like in the Final Four of the NCAA tournament?
You know what? I'm going with my heart a little bit. I really would like to see Purdue make the Final Four. I love Matt Painter's a classy guy and does it the right way. I think Arizona could get in there. They're playing really well. And then I'm going a little upset. I think the Fighting Illini, could beat UConn. Their Illinois is playing great. And then I think Houston Marquette, if they play each other, it would be a phenomenal game. But I think the Cougs could take down Marquette. So I got Illinois, Houston, Purdue, and Arizona.
I like it. All right, now we're going to go into get to know the coach here. All right, I know you love music. You love music. You love going to concert. Who's if you could pick one concert to go back and do it again, your favorite concert, who was it?
Well, actually, it's the most recent concert I've been to. So you and I both dislike the Cubs quite a bit. So
that's true.
Don't necessarily enjoy Wrigley Field, but last summer I saw Bruce Springsteen for 3 hours outside at Wrigley Field, about 60,000 people singing, and it was about 75-degree night, and that was fantastic. So that's probably the best. You and I saw the Eagles recently, which was awesome as well. But honestly, like I just don't know if you go to a bad concert. You're outside, music's blasting, usually a group you love. So that's as fun a time as you can have.
I don't think people understand, since you and I were at the Eagles, and I think about the shows we've seen. I don't think people realize that at the age of 74, if you turn on Seven Bridges Road, they sound the same now at 74.
I know. I mean, all the groups I like are in their 70s, so I'm a little concerned. But it's amazing to just see. Like, I hope I'm that active when I'm 75 years old.
I think you got potential to be a Swiftie, Luke.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, and let's close with this. You and I both love movies. Give me your top 2 or 3 favorite movies of all time.
Well, number one, it has nothing to do with the name, but number one is always going to be Cool Hand Luke.
Oh, there you go.
Paul Newman, top actor all time, maybe. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with our man Jack Nicholson. And then, I know it's not that recent, but I just love Almost Famous. Great music movie. Fantastic. So I'll throw those 3 out there.
All right. Well, good. Well, we appreciate you being on the Noon Whistle. And John, anything else? Oh, no, that's right. You're in St. Thomas. That joke never gets old. All right. Well, we appreciate you. We know you got a busy day, and we appreciate you pulling over. And you close out our March Madness edition. So best of luck in the off season, and, go Pirates.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, my friend.
All right. Well, we don't go back to work and have lunch until the whistle sounds. So here we go. Another noon whistle. In the end, thanks, Coach.
You got it.